This is probably one of my favorite podcasts so far. It's very funny.
Welcome back to the OTR podcast. I'm your only host today. Trevor's not here. Caleb Graham, and we are here today with a very special guest. You probably saw the title already, so you know who it is. Jacob Paul Patchen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and before we do get going today, Britt's in studio too. We always forget to call her out, and she gets upset and then never comes to work. So
Not true.
But before we get going, make sure you guys are following us. You know, YouTube is the big one. If you're listening right now, you're still listening. So hit subscribe. That's kind of the key place to watch. You'll get to see stuff, whatever we're doing. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're hitting follow there. Or it's not up on Facebook, but you can follow us there at OTR Cast. If you want to see clips from the show and then see when we post new shows, you can click through on there. And also on OTR.pod on Instagram. That's where we post all of our clips. So if you're on Instagram, that's the place to see it. And OTRcast.shop, we don't have anything new out yet, but, well, we do for this quarter, but we've had that out for a few episodes now. But we do have girls merch coming out for the Saturdays for the girls podcast. If you don't know what that is, we just started that this last Saturday. We have the girls come in, Brooke and Shay. People love their podcast, so I gave them their own.
Nice.
Because originally we had Saturday for the boys, but then that was 2 podcasts for us a week, and then it was a lot. And then like, yeah, you got your girls want to do a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, oh yeah. So they'll come in on a Friday night or Saturday and get a little litty and talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Nice. I'm sure they appreciate that.
Oh yeah, they had fun with it. They're still learning like the intro side of it, you know, like because this week, if you watched it already, this week Johnny Westfall, he was like kind of behind the controls, and he like was the intro to the whole thing. I was like, this is great. Saturdays are for the girls podcast. We got Johnny sitting here, intro and everything. But they're learning, and I mean, it'll just come with doing more of them, right? But no, let's dive into you. So tell us a little bit about, you know, who you are, where you're from, and what you got going on.
Yeah. So, man, I don't even know where to start. So First of all, locally, I'm Jacob Graham, but I'm also an author and a poet, and I write under the name Jacob Paul Patchen. The reason for that is my grandpa on my mom's side had all daughters, and no one else was left to carry on the name. So when I was in college, I was like, you know what? If I ever write, it might be a good kind of carry on the Patchen name just through my writing. Okay. So that's kind of what happened there. Yeah, so I'm, like I said, author and a poet. I write everything from children's picture books up to adult fiction and adult poetry. Let's say I have 7 books out now, I think. I've got another one coming out May 24th. It's an adult fiction novel. It's called No Pistol Tastes the Same. It's about PTSD and the strength of family and kind of a military aspect to it. I'm excited about it. You know, it's going to be a good book. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And now, how did you get started into writing?
Yeah, you know, I'm not even sure. To be honest, when people ask me this, so I think back to the first time I actually felt like I accomplished something writing. And I think I was right around 12 years old, and I wrote my first poem. And it was right around the time, you know, mom and dad divorced, and I don't know, I wrote some weird shit, and I was like, you know what, this kind of feels good to do. And it was, I don't know, it had something to do with like some bloody tornado on a raging sea or something. I was 12 years old. I had no idea what I was doing, but I think that was the start of it. And it was something that I tell people it's just a part of me. I don't know where it comes from. I think it's just, you know, a part of who I am and always have been. And I just keep growing it and hoping that it blows up.
Yeah, and I know you've had a little bit of success with some of your earlier books. It's been a while since I saw, but I saw some of the Facebook posts, and some of those hit number 1 on some charts. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I publish traditionally and self-publish. So some of my traditional titles hit number one in their categories in the first couple weeks of launch. And, if you do it right, that's kind of typical. If you do things right, you get a lot of traffic right when you launch. But it felt really good, and the first book I put out, I'm still learning a lot, but I really had no clue what I was doing then. That was back in 2015. That's the first time I hit, a number one ranking in the categories. And I was like, holy shit, what just happened? It was exciting. So I'm looking forward to trying to replicate that and do that a lot more.
And I know you spent some time in the Marines. Is that right? And I'm sure that has some influence on some of your writing.
Yeah, it's had a lot, and I didn't, when I first got back, I was infantry Marine, went to Iraq in 2005, and when I got back home, I wanted to play football. So I was like, you know what? I got some family that works at Muskingum. I'm going to go play football at Muskingum. I didn't want to learn anything. I didn't want to get a degree. I just want to play football. That's what I wanted. But when I got there, I took a couple English classes, and the English department kind of took me under their wing and forced me and tied me to a chair and tortured me and said I had to be an English major. But that was the first time I started writing about Iraq. It was like 2 years afterwards. And I tell you, it was kind of therapeutic, really. But it was like discovering a new voice. And, I tell people it's weird for people to write, or for writers to write so many different genres. And they talk about the writing voice. And I have some, maybe I have some mental issues, but I've got a lot of writing voices going on inside my head. And the one about Iraq, the military one's pretty dark.
Yeah. Yeah. I think from a creative perspective, I think even when I'm doing video stuff or something like that, I notice that I'm a lot more willing to put more out there when I'm doing it in a creative form than I would be just to sit there and talk to someone about it, right? And I don't know if that's the same thing with writing, even if it's like pushing some of what you've experienced or what you've got going on into what you're doing. I notice for me that's something that I've done a lot. It depends, because obviously we do so many sports. Like, you can't really throw what you're thinking about into sports, right? It's just what happens. But if I'm ever doing something creative or like for my own like design, I can always try to throw in different themes and things like that otherwise probably wouldn't see the light of day, right? And that's probably something too that comes out with some of the writing. Yeah,
it always surprises me. I think it's something that never stops growing, and I think that creative side, it's always molding and changing and growing, and it always surprises me where it goes. And I think the key to anybody who wants to explore the creative side is that unleash that shit, let it go, see where it goes, let it happen, and that's what art is. That's what being creative is. No limits, no walls, just let it happen.
I agree with that completely. That's like literally what we started this for. Was when I started this podcast back, it would have been 2 years ago now, like last January. It was kind of just this. It was kind of more of an interview style, like just sit down, talk, don't touch anything too weird or crazy, and just get through it. And then as it evolved, I found that I wasn't having fun just sitting here, like not letting everything out, right? And so now it's kind of evolved more into whatever people want to talk about, whatever comes out, very well, right? And as long as they don't, if they want something deleted, we'll delete it. But for the most part, it's pretty raw and it's pretty out there, and we're pretty open. Even Trevor, he's a track coach, but he's still pretty open with what he'll talk about. And work with the schools. That was like at first my struggle was, well, how much can I really get away with? Like, I don't want to just put everything out there and then the schools be like, well, what's this idiot doing? But at the same time, I want to be able to go out there and be the person I want to be open with people. And I try to not balance those. I try to let people understand that perspective of, I'm not sitting here talking about having sex and, doing all this crazy stuff to just say it. And then all the schools hate me. I'm doing it because nobody is open with their lives anymore. And that's like the one thing I love doing, just being open. And like people ask me anything, I'm like, yeah, sure. Or no, I don't do that, or whatever it is. And I think that's kind of been a release to the podcast, has been, it's whatever. Like it can be this, it can be a little more like interesting and like more about something someone's doing. But at the same time, if it's me and Trevor, and sometimes we don't have a guest, we'll sit and be like, what'd you do at the gym this week? Oh yeah. Well, how's the old lady doing? Yeah, just like whatever. And so that's kind of been the beauty of it. And now whether or not that takes off and whether people want to listen to it, great. But that's kind of why we're here. Now Britt, she had some questions for you.
Sweet.
Questions?
Yeah, because you've been interested in writing before, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm a big writing fan. I think it's very cool, very nice, creative way to kind of like express yourself. So I think it's very cool that you are a writer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm bigger into the poetry side. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So
leave it open-ended.
Yeah, I know. She's like, yeah, just talk about
I got thrown on the spot. I wasn't expecting that.
So, my poetry tends to be more, it is. It's more adult poetry, It's the darker side. It's the therapeutic side. It's what they call confessional poetry. And like what you were kind of talking about, being open and exploring, yourself and being open to that. That's a lot of what my poetry is. It is me exploring an emotion, confronting an emotion, letting it out there. And sometimes it's to understand what it means. Sometimes it's literally just to get it out. Sometimes literally it just hits me like, when I'm working out or on the way back from a run, sometimes I'm pulling out my phone and jotting some shit down that hit me when I was running. But it's amazing. Poetry is amazing in the respect that you can kind of do whatever you want, and there's not a lot of limits to it. And as long as you're sticking to the poetic elements, man, you're doing something good. You're writing poetry, and it's connecting with someone. You're impacting someone, which is awesome.
That's one of my favorite things about poetry. Like, it always finds who it needs to find, I think. At least one person can always relate to it.
Right. And it's so amazing hearing that from people too. When I first started writing, I had no idea where it was going to go. I didn't consider myself a writer until literally probably 3 years ago. And I've been doing this, I started a blog in 2014. But when people start coming up to you and telling you, that something you wrote or, something you said, I was doing some videos, that it touched them and it moved them and it helped them in some sort of way. That's amazing. That's awesome. It really is it's the inspiration to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think that's something people struggle with. Not struggle necessarily, but people don't realize is whatever you're feeling, someone else probably has a very similar emotion. Even if you're like, there's no way, like there's nothing out there that would adapt to this or would really speak with me, or like, I know, like, even if I was going to, let's say like I was going to write a song or something, you're like, I might think it's cool, but what if no one else like gets it? Like but for the most part, if you get that out there, there's going to be an audience for that at somewhere. Now, how you find them, that's a whole nother, story.
Right.
But there's typically always some audience for something. And that's what I try to explain, like with the different stuff we're doing, is it's a slow growth, thing. This is it's a podcast that is put on YouTube, and it's pretty local right now. Now we talk about any and everything. For the most part, we're bringing in local guys, local people that are doing stuff, but there's an audience for that. It's just, how do you find them? How do you get it to them? And then how do you connect with them and continue to grow with that audience, right? And so that's the biggest thing. How does that translate into the book, right? Have you noticed? Has there ever been a time you've basically been like, oh, I wrote this and I don't know, like I think it's kind of cool, but we're just gonna have to put it out there and see what happens, and then had like some overwhelming response to it?
Yeah, my hardest thing, since I write so many different genres, is knowing what genre I'm writing in for that story. And usually my thing is I have an idea for a story or a poem, and that usually starts with, some sort of emotion or thought that hits me. But for my stories, I don't really know what genre it fits in a lot of times, and I just write the story the way I want to write it. And then it's like, well, shit. Okay, so now, the writing world is so particular about how they want things, and there's so many different genres and subgenres and ways you're supposed to do things, and if you don't do it, people get mad at you and all this stuff. So a lot of times I don't know where to send it, what audience to send it to. And I'm at the point where I kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to accept that I write all kinds of different shit. I'm going to put it out there, and whoever likes it, likes it. Whoever doesn't like it, you know what? Maybe I'll write something that you'll like someday.
Right. I think as society gets older, that doesn't really make sense. But I think as the world kind of progresses, you're seeing a lot more breakthrough with stuff like that, where it's not necessarily just the typical, oh, stick to this format, stick to this, and you'll be great. I think you're seeing a lot more, not a ton of success, but you're seeing breakout success and things like that. Like, I mean, Machine Gun Kelly could be an example of it. He went from rap to pop. I mean, now granted, it was a very big genre back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, screw it, I'm going to do it. And didn't really follow any format, and it just worked, right? Like, right. And you're obviously he was a massive example of that, but you're seeing a lot more of that, like a Banksy, with painting. The dude just makes stuff. No one knows who he is, mm-hmm. and they're like, yeah, sure, this is great. We're gonna shred this drawing and make it worth 100 times what it was. So right. It's just so interesting to see that style come out of people, and it does. I think society is starting to reflect that a little more into. We used to be a society way back when of small business, we keep everything local, and then we got so hyper commercialized at some point. And now I think we're starting to get back to this point where like, okay, like we're tired of the same traditional this and that. And I think we're starting to see more of that come out in the creative fields, at least as far as like writing, whether it's, yes.
I have a question
yes.
after you're done with your.
No, yeah, you're good. I'm just rambling over here.
I was just wondering, do you have any like favorite poetry authors, like any that you take inspiration from or anything like that?
Yeah. So this is a weird part of me as a writer. I don't like to read.
Wow.
I know it's strange. I'm more of a movie guy, but I did like Sylvia Plath.
Ooh, very nice choice.
Yeah, and she led the way in confessional poetry, and she touched on a lot of things, a lot of the themes I touch on, which mental health, suicide, death, the darker side of things that a lot of times get swept under the rug. But I enjoyed her and a lot of poets around that era that wrote in that sort of form and everything. But other than that, I don't have a favorite author or poet or anybody like that. So I kind of suck in that department.
How about you, Britt? Who's yours?
I am a big Jane Austen person. Love Jane Austen.
Nice.
Samuel Taylor Coleridge has to come in about second, and then probably in the newer day would be R.H. Sin. If you've ever read any of his work or heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
I like poetry that kind of resonates with how I feel. That's how I kind of connect to poetry. And I think it's very cool that everyone does too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you think it's
it's hard to be a co-host. Like, it's really hard when I'm not used to talking.
Undervalued position.
I'm giving Trev a lot of credit now.
Just talking. Undervalued. No, I see. I used to be I've taken a cliff dive as far as reading.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I mean, the most I read's on the internet, right? Like
right.
I'm reading articles and stuff like that. But there was a time in college when I dove into some stuff. I think even in high school, I won like a poetry contest. Like, just, it was pretty dope. I forget what it was, but it was pretty cool. It was just through our school. But I did some writing, and then obviously in college, I for some reason I got so attached to reading about the history of like biblical history that wasn't in the Bible, right?
Mhm.
It was more like the Dead Sea Scrolls or like some of those other like articles that they found later on that would like corroborate stories from here to there and be like, oh, well, look, historically, this is what happened. So I dove into that a lot in college. And then when I was at Arizona State, we read a ton of different world religion books.
Mhm.
And so a lot more, nonfiction for me. But Britt, you seem more of like a fiction person.
I like fiction. I am a
Oh,
good
yeah, you
bit
do.
into the fiction books. Yeah, I think that's mainly what I read, other than my poetry book and my astrology book.
Yeah. And now for you, does how much of your writing comes from experience versus how much of it comes from just your brain?
Ooh, good question.
That's a great question, because even in my author bio, I kind of I'm kind of proud that the majority of my writing comes from experience. That's where I get my inspiration from. That's where I get my stories from. And there's a saying that I learned back in school that I'm sure most writers have heard. It's write what you know. And I think that my 20s and the shit that I experienced, from the Marines through school, through some horrible relationships, that's stuff that people don't get to hear about but can relate to a lot, and especially the Marine stuff. But I think I just like to write about things that maybe make people a little bit uncomfortable, and things that maybe they don't want to face or confront, and kind of give them a little bit of maybe those people who don't speak up enough about it, give them a voice. So that's that's kind of cool.
Well, and that's something this area is afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's afraid to like talk about what they feel, right? Or like what they're scared of. And you're not. You kind of are sometimes.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what did you say?
Like I feel like like Guernsey County or like the southeastern Ohio as a whole is just such a rugged, like you got to be like tough.
So you're calling me rugged?
Well, no, I'm saying like you or like you'll talk about like
some things,
but more than like your pipeliner that's
right,
struggling but isn't gonna say anything about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
mm-hmm.
Because he's just like, I'm gonna go to work and be fine, And so I think that's something that is very interesting about where we live is, like it's not a big city where like I just think right now in society everybody is just kind of like closed in and afraid to talk about stuff or like touch on certain issues or talk about this or talk about that, whether it's suicide. People are like, oh, I don't want to touch that or
Mm-hmm.
talk about that, especially in writing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I would make the video, but I would be uncomfortable making a video about suicide, right? So from your perspective, like that's definitely a very interesting subject to think about is how do you open people up? How do you get them to just tell you how they feel, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like nobody wants to talk about that anymore. And I think that's important, especially it's big in relationships.
Right.
I mean, just today, literally, you get out of here. Just today, I was sitting up we were sitting up eating and this girl was like, yeah, like me and my boyfriend, like we're like not talking anymore. I'm like, well, like what happened? And she's like, he just like, he gets depressed and then we don't talk about nothing. And then I'm like, yeah, like, if there's no route of communication there, like you're not gonna be able to keep that bond going.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think I like what you said about this area and how literally, people don't like to open up and talk about it. It's a small town. A lot of times people know everyone's business anyway, but no one wants to, be open and honest about it because there's like this taboo thing about, being honest with your emotions. And, most of my friends that I grew up with, we're redneck guys that don't know anything about poetry to begin with. And on the Marine side of that too, I get a lot of buddies that make fun of me about it, which is cool. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there's so many others that speak up, on the side and say, hey man, I appreciate you talking about this subject. I appreciate you bringing light to it. I appreciate you giving words to it because I wish I could have, and I couldn't. And that, man, I mean, hell, that gets me like goosebumps and shit, like that gets me, I don't know, that's the inspiration I need to keep doing what I'm doing. And I wish some of my redneck friends could tap into their emotions and be open and honest.
It's not, I think what's crazy about it, and this is based on the person, right? But I think that perspective, like the redneck friend that doesn't want to tap to their emotions, it's not that they don't, I think it's that they're scared to, they would never admit that, right? They'd be like, I'm good. I don't feel, I think they're just scared to get into it. And that's most people is, they put on a big front to feel a certain way or show off a certain perspective, but really deep down, they're just afraid of what unleashing that could bring, right? And that doesn't even have to be like, oh, I'm a tough redneck, I'm scared of talking about how I feel. It could be anything. It could be, oh, I go out to the bar every night, I hang out and I find, different people to hang out with every night, but really deep down, what do I feel? Like, am I hanging out with like, oh gosh, this is just me. This is me. Am I hanging out with all these like women, like to like just do it and like, oh, that's cool? Or am I like where the fuck's my wife, right? Like, I don't know, maybe not, but it's that too. It's not just I'm tough and I don't want to hide this. It's really what's the ulterior motive of X, right? So I think that's kind of an interesting perspective. Like, Britt, what's yours? What are you hiding from the world?
Everything.
Right. I know
everything.
You are. I know she is too. You put on a pretty good front sometimes.
It ain't a front.
So I'm me.
I'm always me. I just don't. I'm a very private person. I don't
know.
Why don't you go ahead and just make up a poem and give it to us real quick?
I have about 6 in my notes, but I am very private with my poetry.
She is.
Yes,
she's mentioned them before. And she's like, I'm not...
That's the one that I will. Not yet. Not there yet. But
do you have any advice for her, maybe about releasing work?
Yeah.
So first of all, I would say you need to get with a group of people who can understand and relate. Maybe a group of writers. Because you need support around you when you open up and share, your personal deep thoughts. I mean, it's cliche, but when you write something, that's your baby. That's a piece of you, that's a part of you, and man, to share that, to open that up to the world is, it's
especially the wrong first audience, right? If you hit the wrong people first, then you're like, oh gosh, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. And I remember sharing some of my first stuff, and I literally would look for any clue, like facial expression, like just anything that told me if I should shut the fuck up or if I should keep going, But you need to surround yourself with people that can understand it and that can be supportive. I know the local bookstore here, Bookology.
Okay.
We've been in contact and done some stuff with them, and we've kind of shot some ideas back and forth about trying to get some writing groups together, some things like that. I'm a part of Cambridge Writers, which is another writing group, and they meet weekly. So it's kind of just surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and who can support you and, kind of nurture your voice and get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to hear. You've never even like showed me.
Well, let's see if.
I'm
gonna look.
It's working. I didn't say you had to do it right now. I just thought I was like that's how I was just showing you how how close she is about it. Is like I've never even and she's around me almost every other day. So if she's not gonna share it with me, she's probably not gonna share it. Or sister, you share it with your sister.
Nope.
See, that's even.
If I don't share it with my sister, that I don't share it with anyone.
No, that's true. Okay, well I'm gonna switch gears while you're looking. What's the go-to beer? What are you drinking?
Oh, so the go-to beer for me, man. Okay, so I was always that oddball in the group of friends because it
wasn't Busch Light.
So that's usually what everyone bought. Right. That was the beer of choice around here. But I like to try a bunch of different shit. I was literally the dude that'd go buy the variety pack of things and be like, I just want to try stuff.
See what's cool. Yeah.
Get made fun of, but have a different beer in every picture. I'm on a Bud Light kick right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like beer, but when I drink just beer, I get so like bloated, and I'm like, Right. So if I had to choose, I'm going Mick Ultra right now. But for the most part, I'm pretty liquor intensive, I would say. I don't know if this was, I was very young. I remember this. I don't know if it was a graduation party. It was either yours or Jason's.
Okay.
And you might remember, I don't know. But
I'm not going to remember. What are you looking at me for?
No, I'm just bullshitting over here. And for some reason, Annie brought me, and you know how she is. So I'm sitting there. I'm probably, 12? I'm not even 12. I'm probably like 8 or 9. And someone was doing a keg stand.
that sounds about right.
And I'm sitting there like holding someone's legs up on a keg stand at like 8 years old. And my mom, she's like, "Get away from there right now." And I was like, back then I was like, that was so weird. And now I just think that's the funniest thing.
Yeah. You don't want to stand around people doing keg stands because you have to participate if you're, close.
I think that's what she was afraid of.
Yes.
I was like, I'm like, they didn't throw me up there. I was a support leg,
Nice. What, do you remember where that party was? Because I'm right now, there's a lot that's happening in my head with some of those parties. That's a typical thing.
Right. Well, and that would have been like at that point in my life, the only time I would have been out at one of those. I don't remember. It was pretty open. Someone had music playing out of the back of a car.
Yeah. Was there a pond there?
It was dark. It was dark already.
Okay.
Then there was kind of like, it was out front. Then there was, it's just the only, I couldn't visualize any of the property, anything else. I just remember that part. And I was like, man, that's funny. Like,
yeah.
So and look at me now. What are you gonna?
Right. I should have brought a keg. We could.
That was the start of.
My bad. My bad for getting you
Sorry,
started
Annie.
There. Yeah, right.
No, but that's funny. Like, that's hilarious. I was just like, yeah, it's a good talking point. But now, I don't know. I think that was kind of a generational thing because we never did keg stands like ever, like, and so I don't know if that was like a 2000s like party thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do people still get kegs? Like,
I don't think so. Not. I mean, at least not. I don't. You wouldn't really know.
No, I wouldn't know.
But yeah, so like I don't know because I remember that I was like, this is gonna be sweet. Like this is gonna be fun. And that like every other party, like when we throw parties and whenever I would go to people's parties or whatever, we would just the occasional keg, but it's usually at like a beer Olympics or something like that where you're just like continually filling up a cup. But yeah, we've never done. Maybe we'll have to do that.
A keg stand?
I'm putting that on my bucket list.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's really you haven't lived until you've done a keg stand or held someone's legs on a keg stand.
No, that's. Yeah, we're gonna maybe not soon, but whenever we have like a cabin trip or something, might be a good investment.
Yeah,
a keg.
So, story about that. Story time.
Yeah.
So, for spring break, none of my friends went to college. I was the only one who went to college, but they all wanted to go on spring break. So it worked out, right?
I wonder why.
I know, right? So we went down to Florida a couple years. One year we took a keg with us down to Florida, and like Dan's truck, in the back of the truck. So, number one, side note, it takes like 24 hours for it to settle after I think it was an 18 or 21 hour trip.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's like an 18.
Daytona or wherever, Panama. I don't know where we went. But anyway, besides the point. So we took a keg with us because we thought, it'd be fun to have a keg. I don't know why. But I tell you what, we were the life of the party at that timeshare. It was actually Uncle Rick's timeshare. He let us go down there. But yeah, we had a keg that we brought, and people thought that was pretty awesome. And so did we, because we have to go get beer.
It's convenient,
it's right there,
right? Yeah, and that's what I think. Like, realistically, why are we not getting kegs for these parties? I mean, it's easy. It's just easy. You just bring a metal giant aluminum can in and just start pumping, right? Versus like, throw this in the trash. Throw this. I'm like, saves a lot of cleanup too. Probably
it really does. Yeah.
efficiency. Oh gosh, that's not a word. Efficiency. But no, anymore. I mean, it's pretty much just like, I guess our friend group's weird too, right, Britt? Like
A little, yeah.
like we're just very non-traditional. Like we like to party, right? But a lot of us didn't party in like high school. Like I was like a saint. It was basically me. I was the only one that did.
Yeah, I was pointing at you.
And then college hits you, and you're like, oh, this is more fun, right? But so I don't know if it was something to do with that, or it was like, oh, you know. But the majority of our parties now are pretty much just here. You know, that's why it looks halfway like a frat house.
Oh, that's all right.
It's part of the set too, right? Yeah. I'll have people walking here like, this looks like a frat house. I'm like, good. Good. Yeah, that's all I need it for. I mean, we take pictures on the other side, but that's about it. And so it's here, a little bit at Ethan's house, but there's just kind of an apartment, so you can't get too crazy. So you don't want to break nothing.
Right.
But we a lot of our, they're
Stone bones.
stones sometimes. Yeah. He's got a fire pit, so that's the good.
He's got a house, so
yeah, that's the good spot for
that's
it. You know,
the party
that's
place.
like you can break stuff without.
No, well,
We don't. I'm not saying we break stuff all the time. I'm like, you don't feel as bad. You're like, you know, at least me.
I was gonna say, I think that's just you.
Well, I'll buy it. Like, speaking of breaking stuff, when was this? This would have been, somebody was throwing a party out at New Hearts. I don't know if you've ever been out there to their place.
I used to be
a
friends
lot
with some New Hearts.
Yeah.
So probably.
Yeah. So it wasn't a graduation party. It was like 2 years ago. So I was still pretty old. I don't remember what it was for, but anyway, that doesn't matter. So they threw this like big party, and this was the first time like I had went out there for a party, because we were friends in high school, but I didn't like go out. Like we just hung out at school. And so I go out there and I was blasted. And everyone was. So one of our buddies, Gage, actually, he was like laying out in the yard, and it's like 12 a.m. and it's cold. I'm like, somebody's got to get Gage. Like he's gonna freeze to death out there. And they're like, no, he's fine. And me, I'm like, no. So I go out there and I'm like, Gage, you got to get inside. He's like, no, leave me alone. And but anyway, he just ends up staying there. But on my way back in, I'm like walking and like holding like the side of the barn, because I like, for some reason, and this is the part where it gets muddy, but for some reason I like grabbed like the dish, because I was like falling, and I like ripped the like satellite dish out of the ground. And so I had to buy a satellite dish for the New Hearts. That was the most, I think that's the most damage I've done. I don't usually break stuff. You see, there's guys that like go get drunk and they're just like, let's break everything.
Right.
I'm pretty much the same dude. Like I've been up to DTA like and been sober, like, because recently I don't drink nearly as much as I used to. Especially last, I drank almost exclusively every day last year, and that wasn't good. That was not good.
Catches up with you.
And so this year has been a lot better for me. But so like I'll go up to DTA sometimes, and I won't drink anything. I just like the scene. Like I just like hanging out, talking to people, seeing what's going on. And like the first time I did that, I came back here, and then the day after, someone messaged me. They're like, "How like drunk were you last time?" Like I was like, I wasn't. You know, I didn't even have a drink. And they're like, "Oh, like you're like the same person." And I was like, I think that's a good thing. I'm like, I'm like, thanks. You know, at least I'm not like a dumbass. Like, but I have my moments. But for the most part, I'm oddly like the same like level. You know.
Yeah.
As far as like talking and just being social and everything, but I know there's some people they'll wreck some stuff. Johnny
I can
will wreck
see it.
I
feel like that's just him sober too.
A little. Like we were playing pong down here a couple nights ago, not last week, and like he was fine all night, and then he doesn't remember most of the night, but he just like took the whole table and like flipped it over and like broke like everything on like the coffee. That's why the coffee stand was so
messy.
Yeah, she came in here. She's like, I just cleaned this coffee stand.
I did.
Like, sorry.
I deep cleaned it, and now it is disgusting.
But man, you got any good like party stories of maybe people that are listening that like saw you pop up and are like, oh no, they're like afraid that you're gonna mention them?
Oh man, I could name drop all day. So listen, so my 20s literally wasn't a party like the entire decade, and a little bit before that too. But my friends, we were the party crowd, and we loved to have a good time. I wish I could remember a lot of good stories, but some things that really stand out when I think back to my 20s is Jamboree in the Hills.
Oh,
and
I never got to experience it.
I tell you, man, it literally was like it was heaven. It was a redneck heaven, is what it was.
Yeah.
But we used to literally, hell, I don't know, maybe 40 campers. We would get like all of us together.
Wow.
Literally, we'd like be renting a whole block out in this field, all right? And we would like circle them up kind of, and we had like one of our buddies brought like the big military light that extends up and shines down, so we'd be lit up the whole time. We'd set up some pools out front, and we'd set up a slip and slide. And the slip and slide, we'd go get like 100-foot or 200-foot. Hell, I don't even know how long it was. It was really long. Plastic sheet, and we'd bring water with us and soap, and we would have parties that literally the entire campsite would be at our parties and hitting the slip and slide and just doing some other fun stuff. But they all blur into one. I can't really specifically remember an individual one, but they were all a good time.
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't get to, because Jambo just disappeared right when I was getting ready to.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah,
grew up a little bit there,
Oh, that I can imagine. I don't know how close the Jurassic Classic is to it.
It's
similar,
what? It's like a mini jam.
Right, and see, that's like, to me, Jurassic's like, that's like that's like the thing, right? So to know that could be a whole nother level was like, oh yeah, sad that I didn't get to experience.
Yeah, I would say Jurassic would be like maybe a 3 or 4 on a Jambo scale. Oh yeah, I mean it's getting a little bit bigger, but right. I mean Jambo is the real deal. There's this one time we met Luke Bryan. So we were sitting out in our pools out front, and we usually camp along this little gravel road, and we're just chilling, drinking our sarsaparillas in our pools. And this I don't know, it was a Jeep, I don't know what the hell it was. This weird looking vehicle came driving by, and we didn't pay much attention, but then one of my buddies was like, holy shit, was that Luke? And so he came back through, and he had like a film crew with him, like his buddies filming in the back, and so we ran up and said hi to Luke, and he was like, hey, I want to come party with you. He didn't, but he did say that he wanted to. So we'll take that.
Right. That's close. Yeah. So I know, like this year at Jurassic, I lost my phone. My friends, this friend group, not you weren't there.
I know, but like this friend group.
Yeah, I'll call them out. I don't care. They're like very like, they like each other. They're very introverted. I used to be very introverted. So when we go and party, they like to party with just our group or like just at a house. Me, I'm like, invite everybody. Let's how big can this get, right? And so like, you guys want to go like talk to people? Like there's parties going on, it's like 12, people are like, no, we're going to sit around this fire. I'm like, well, I'm leaving. I'm like, I'm pretty drunk already. And so I go and I start walking around. I felt like there was this, so at Jurassic, and it wasn't as big this year as it was the year before. Or, well, that's a lie. They didn't have it. But before COVID, right? And there's this place called Party Alley. And it's the same guys. It's probably similar to what you guys do, just a lot smaller. They get the same spots every year. They like set up like their own bar and everything. And like they just have like a party. There's lights. They've got like Christmas lights and everything. And people were telling like, yeah, that's like where the party is. I'm like, well, I'm finding this place. So I'm walking around the campgrounds. I didn't find it originally. The first night I was like, it doesn't exist. I think they're just bullshit. I think they're just making it up.
Say you on a treasure hunt.
Yeah, they're like, this guy, he's never going to find it. And so I think my friends went out with me that night. They were like, you're just like, this doesn't exist. And so we found like a small party that was going on. They were playing Pong and stuff. We hung out there. That's where I lost my phone. And then I went back to where we were camping. I was like, oh no. I was like, there's no way. So the chef guy, shout out chef guy, I don't know. He was wearing a chef suit the whole night. It was his camper. He's like, you lose your phone? I'm like, yeah. He's like, here. I'm like, oh, like thank goodness. But then the next night we did find Party Alley. It does exist. So if you're at Jurassic, that's your new goal. You got to find Party Alley. It's
Nice.
kind of tucked back
Yeah.
and away off like the main strip.
Don't tell them where it is.
I mean, that's that. You know how many strips there are.
Right.
There's a lot. They're gonna have trouble finding that. But it was cool. You walk up and there's like a bar, and they're like, "What do you want to drink?" I'm like, "This," and they're like, "Just take it."
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it was a cool little spot. There were people running around, dudes showing you their girlfriend's tits. Like you're like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "All right." Or it's like, "Is this your sister?" Like, why are you showing?
It's my wife.
It's my sister and my wife. What do you mean? But it was a cool spot. So if you ever get a chance, try to find Party Alley. We'll see if it's there this year. But they get in trouble every year. I'll tell you that. Because they go a little too hard sometimes. But those are always the best ones. Right?
I mean, that happens. You know, you got to expect that a little bit. I might have partied there a time or two. I mean, it's been a few years since I've been to Jurassic, but you know, I used to be that guy wandering around too. As my friends started settling down, getting married with kids and all that, you know, so we'd have to go find the party somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, you know what's really cool, I think, about Jurassic and Jambo. I don't know how many times at Jambo and probably Jurassic, like you just walk up to where the party's at, and like you're one of them. You know, you become like besties, and you're drinking buddies for the entire night, and
you'll never see them again.
Right? Yeah, you don't even know who the hell it was, but you know what? You guys were best friends that night, and I think that's awesome.
Nah, that is like that's prime. My style of party is that, and that's why I'm like, man, Jambo, like, come on back.
Right.
It probably won't, but they've got some weird lease on the land now, where like someone bought it, and they can't have like a festival there for like 10 years or something. Because I think I don't know what the whole idea was, but apparently they don't want people having festivals there, because someone's like, I'm going to buy the land and have a festival, you know, because they could make their money back pretty quickly. But they basically put in like whoever purchased it cannot throw an event there for like 10 years or something.
That sucks.
But in 10 years, the ultimate return, it'll just be a bunch of like 50-year-old dudes like relive the glory days. But I'm still gonna go. I mean, I want to experience it. I want to see what it's like.
Yeah, you need to. I mean, it's a bucket list thing for sure. And
I don't know how. Have you ever been to Country Fest?
I haven't. I don't think.
I haven't either.
No, I haven't.
There's a new. You know where Clay's Park is? It's like I don't know. There's this water park up north somewhere, and I don't know how many people it can hold. I don't think it's going to be Jambo sized by any means, but they basically have like you can walk into the water. It's a water park like on a lake that they've got like stuff. But this year is the second year they've done it. I think I could be wrong, but they've got something called Country Fest, and it's like a 3-day camp out. You know, bring beer, all that kind of stuff, and it's a list this year. It's like, I mean, just Wednesday night is Brantley Gilbert, and that's the launch party.
Yeah, and
then they've got I don't know if they have Luke Bryan, but they've got. I know Saturday night is Morgan Wallen Hardy, big other 3 or 4 big names Saturday night, and then Friday night is Jason Aldean, and then Thursday night is someone else.
Yeah.
But it's a list of people.
Yeah, sounds like a good show.
And it's in the water, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Right. And I think it's summer. So that way it's a little bit off the path of a Jurassic, and it's warm. You know, so you'll be able to sit in the water party, and I mean that sounds like a great. You want to go?
When is it?
I don't know.
Possibly.
Yeah, you do. No, it's but that's kind of I that'll be the first thing outside of Jurassic I'm going to go try and see if it's worth my time, right? Or I mean, I know it'll be fun, but see if that'll chase that high again.
Yeah. Well, I expect like at least like a 5-page report when you get back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll have that ready. It's just like that. That's what the podcast will be like. Actually, here. So the restrooms. 2 out of 5. Yeah. Just reviewing.
It's a good direction to go, really.
It would. You'd be surprised. I know. It's so the slow build for us is like we're just 2 dudes talking about whatever. It's like, where's your audience for that? It'll come. Like there's people that want to listen to that. You're not a dude.
3 bros just
All right, 3 bros.
Talking.
Sure. but so we're trying to find our audience for that, but it's funny, like when we gave those girls Saturday, they're like, all these dudes, man, they're like, great podcast. You guys did really good. I'm like, oh, of course. I'm like, they're gonna have a bigger audience than we are, which I'm fine. It's our channel. But I was like, man, like really? Like you just gotta be a girl. That's it. That's how the internet is these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Absolutely. I mean, it's a girl's world, man.
It's always has been.
1920.
Really?
But you're not wrong now. That's the craziest part is like girls run everything now. Like they literally have so much control.
Should be.
Yeah.
Just depends on how much you're gonna let them have. That's the fun part. I had some girl today. She's like, you should buy a car. I'm like, no, I don't want to buy a car because mine has like 209,000 miles. It works, you know. I'm like, until it blows up, why am I getting something new? She's like, you keep using that chick repellent of a car. I'm like, if I need a car to get chicks, I'm doing something wrong, you know. Like it could help. It could definitely help, but I'm like, you're sadly mistaken. Yeah, it's just funny. I was like, but I could see how that could work on people, right? Like there would be that guy out there that's like, oh, yeah, I do need a car. You know, like they'd get like all defensive and be like, it's not a chick repellent. And me, like, that's the fun. Okay, so I will elaborate on this because I can. So I started talking to this girl. We just talk. And it's funny because she's very like, likes to be dominant in a relationship. And I like to, not like, you looked at me like, oh my gosh, not in that way.
Shades of gray. Holy
wow.
shit.
No, but so just like how they like to like talk to guys or like interact with guys versus how I like to and we started hanging out, and at first she was like, honestly, I thought I was just gonna like Snapchat you and like just leave you on red and never talk to you again. She's like, but you were so confusing. And she's like, I had to meet you. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I'm an open, like, I'll tell you anything. I have nothing to hide. I'm not like fragile about like talking about this or that. And she's like, I know. And it's weird. She's like, all these guys I talk to are like so like manly and out there. I'm like, I'm like, slow down. I can be a man sometimes. But I'm like, also, I'll talk to you about anything and everything. Like, and so that I think was like very interesting to her. And she still doesn't know really how to like cope with it. As far as like, cause you know, she's like, buy a car. I'm like, no. And cause she sells cars and, it's just so interesting. Like the dynamic of people like that, like how the world expects them, right? Like girls right now have so much power. They're like, oh, I can talk to any guy and then they'll just do whatever I want. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Not this guy.
Right. Yeah. And I think around here, it does go that way, but you know, bigger cities, you know, that's a whole different world as far as like the dating scene. What are you laughing about?
Nothing.
How do you like the bigger city dating scene, Britt?
The bigger city scene?
Yeah.
It's fun.
How's it working for you?
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm not there right now.
How was Kansas?
It was amazing.
How was the dating scene in Kansas?
I wasn't looking for a date in Kansas. I was there for 2 weeks.
What were you looking for? Did you find love?
Ew. Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Fell in love with the city itself.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's beautiful.
Nice. Well, like, what's in Kansas? Like,
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you do there?
She loves it.
Well, first off, my sister's there, so
okay.
I already love it. My favorite crystal shop is there. The best pizza I've ever had is there.
Oh, wow.
My friends are there. Greatest college ever.
She was
what? There's one?
Kansas.
Kansas University.
Literally.
University. All right.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk,
oh,
baby.
yeah.
Natty champs. Let's go. We're celebrating today. This shirt.
Is that what you wanted to say?
That is what I wanted to say. That you
finally got to say. She said before you got here, she's like, remind me at the beginning I need to say something. It's like an hour. What are we, an hour
Dude,
in?
I didn't forget. I was getting it on this podcast.
Okay. But yeah, no, Johnny picked Kansas to win on his bracket.
Because of me.
Just because of you.
Yeah, I know. So did my other friend.
I was rooting against him. I was like,
of course you were. You're a hater.
I am.
I predicted the exact score on my bracket too. So I got that right.
I was like, if Kansas wins, I'm going to have to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
Hey, listen, I am just relishing in it. Like
I know you are.
It's amazing. I've never witnessed this. I was too young.
You watch any college sports? I don't. I don't partake.
I'm more of the football guy. Like basketball, I just, I used to back in the day a little bit, but honestly, I don't do a whole lot right now with much of anything.
Yeah.
Like I've just been so focused on the writing stuff. It's like I don't even know who I am anymore because I don't do the same things I used to do. But yeah, I love NFL.
Okay.
I like playing like FanDuel and DraftKings and like just really getting into that. I like college football too.
Yeah, it's so funny because we started just filming sports, so everyone assumes I love sports. I don't even watch it. I don't watch I'll watch high school sports, and that's like good enough for me. I'm like even the NFL, and I used to play a lot of fantasy. I don't anymore. Even college, like Nathan, Dalton, those guys, they're like all about it. They're like, oh, we're watching the game. Like, I'll just go do something else. I'll go do whatever I want. So sports for me have been like, non-existent. I mean, I know I hear about them from you guys, but
I don't know. I just I try to appreciate every sport. Like I'll sit down and watch just about anything unless it's golf.
Just not golf. Anything but golf.
No, golf is to me, golf is so lame.
I mean, I couldn't watch it, but I think it's such like a technical sport.
Yeah.
To be really good at it.
Good for you if you're good at golf and stuff, but like you're never going to catch me out there, never going to catch me watching it, supporting it.
You're ever going to go watch Ethan when he becomes a pro golfer?
Nah. I'll send him a card in the mail. I ain't going to watch that.
No. And that's something too, like those guys love going to golf. Like I know that's a big thing around here is people love to go golfing, and I'm like, I'll go. I'm horrible. I'm really bad. I feel like everyone's horrible at golf around here. It's just you just go to drink. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah, so I'm a big golfer. I got back into it after like literally a 10-year hiatus. So I'm in a couple leagues out at Wildfire, and that's what it ended up being. It was like just a bunch of friends, and we're like, hey man, let's just go golfing and drink. But I started getting a lot better. Like I used to be good way back when I was young.
Yeah.
But I love it and I hate it. It is one of those sports. It's like, man, if you have a good day, you're like, oh hell yeah, I'm motherfucking Tiger Woods. And then if you have a bad day, you're breaking shit and throwing stuff in the woods. At least I am. I mean,
that would be why I would go golfing. It's just like throw some clubs.
It feels very good to do that.
Is wild. Like what course wise? Where's your favorite place to play?
Oh man, I don't know. I grew up playing at the country club. That's where I learned to golf. It's gone kind of downhill a little bit since I remember it. But it brings back a lot of memories when I go out there and golf. So maybe maybe the country club, I guess.
You ever go out to Salt Fork?
I've never golfed at Salt Fork.
We have a really nice golf course out there.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. I have a bad slice, so I'd have to take a whole bunch of balls.
That is, yes. So we went golfing in Miami when we went down there, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I just bought a bunch of balls. I'm like, lose them in the woods, whatever. Well, what I didn't realize was in Miami, there's not a lot of woods. It's just houses. So the whole course is just through like an apartment complex. And now they have like protection up on their windows and stuff, but I hit about every house I could. Like just knocking them off roofs. And there was some guy, it wasn't me luckily, but there was some guy on a ladder like doing like painting the side of his house. I'm like, one of us is gonna hit this guy. And I made sure to hit left because he was on the right side, and John, he just slices it, and it probably landed like from me to the wall next to this guy, and he like looked back, and he's like, I'm like, I told you, I'm like, just aim that way.
Right.
But it's a whole different animal out there with like it's just apartments because everyone's supposed to be good at golf, right? It's like the retirement area.
Wow.
You're like, I get down here to golf, and you're like, oh, I should not be golfing right now.
It's always fun to hit a house though.
And now living on Hole 9 at Robbins Ridge, no, I don't. It's hard to hit that house. I mean, it's amazing. People will do it because it's like the house is right off to the left of like where you actually. I'm like, how do you hit that here?
Right.
But they'll do it. I mean, they'll be. That's where I find most of my balls. I just go walk in the woods after like a golf season, and I've got balls for the whole year. I like to go and just throw around or hit around, whatever. But they're very straight. You ever played out at Robbins Ridge?
Yeah, a few different times.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan.
It's just a field. That's all it is. It's just a big field. And they don't, like, they're so strict about it, too. With, like, for what it is, like, you should be happy anyone wants to just come out here.
I agree.
It's, like, more expensive than Wildfires, more expensive than the country club. It's close. But they're, like, when I was, like, 12, I would just walk out on the 9-hole just to, like, hit balls. And within, like, 4 minutes, like, this dude would be, like, hauling ass on his cart over here to tell me to get off the golf course. I'm like, it's 12 degrees. There's nobody. It wasn't even in season. And they're, like, mad. And so, really, all you do, you just see him come and you just leave. It's great. He'd never catch me, but because he lived on the house down over the hill. And I'm like, oh, here he comes. All right, let's get out of here. Or even, like, our friends, we would go, like, throw Frisbee. Like, not even on the greens, not on, like, the fairway. They'd be like, get off the course. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, sorry we're interrupting your nobody's here. Yeah, nobody's out here. So oh. Yeah. So what I think what are we at? Like an hour and 10?
Hour.
Literal hour? Man, I'm usually better than that. I usually gauge those better. Well, we'll wrap it up. I want to let you did you bring books?
Yeah, I just brought them because I didn't know if I want some like
show them off.
Okay.
For us.
Yeah, and you want to read a part of it?
Yeah.
Might read a poem or something if you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll put that out there too. We'll put that as a clip.
Give us an exclusive.
All right. So this is my latest, which was a year ago. This is a young adult fiction novel, more upper middle grade fiction, kind of is what I had in mind. It's won a couple awards, so I'm happy with it. But it's about a war here in the Cambridge, Byesville area, and a boy that survives in a bunker and then comes out and kind of fights back. Literally, it's like my fantasy as a child is what it is. I grew up playing like army and paintball and all that stuff, and I was always wondering what I would do if there was a war. I'd like plan this shit out and be like, all right, so I'm gonna hide here and whatever. Yeah, that's what this story is.
That's cool that you turned it into a book, though. That you like followed through with it in your older age.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the idea was to write a book that I would have liked to have read at like 12 years old. I hated reading. They forced us to do it. And I was like, I don't want to. So this book is kind of funny. It's kind of got the, sarcastic voice to it. And the kid's kind of cool. And little Easter egg here. The character, in my mind, is my future child. That's how I wrote it. Like, this would be my child, which I don't...
that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask if, like, the kid was based off you when you were younger, but you kind of answered that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of me in him. I just assumed, this is, if I have any kids out there, this is what they would be. Yeah. I don't know if I probably don't have any.
Probably don't.
I don't get any Father's Day cards or anything, so...
Well, I think it's cool, too, just on the fact that was like a childhood dream, right? A lot of people don't, as they get older, they just kind of let those things go and they don't put them in, they don't turn them into anything, right? Like they have all these crazy ideas as kids, or like, oh, I want to do this or that, and I'm going to do this when I'm older, or this and that, and they don't convert that into anything. So it's cool to have like a physical version of your thoughts, right?
Yeah, and it was fun to write because of that too. I was excited about it. Okay, so here's a couple others. So this would have been my actual first book that I published. It was a poetry book. It's got a different cover because I was with a publishing house that I canceled the contract after 3 years. I just wasn't happy with them. So I self-published the same book with a different cover. But it's of love and war, and it's got a lot of poetry about the war and about love and drinking and just, I don't know.
Do you have a favorite in there?
Well, it's hard to say if I have a favorite.
Or a sharing out loud with us.
Okay.
What about you, Britt? Do you have a favorite in yours?
Poem that I've written? I think almost all of them.
They're all bangers.
Me personally, I think so. Like, I'd read the shit out of my book when I publish it.
Nice. Okay, so this one, I mean, it's really hard for me to pick one because I just suck at that. But
they're all a part of you, so yeah, it's going to be a little tricky.
So, would you want to hear a war poem, a love poem, or kind of just a drinking poem? I don't know. What do you guys want?
What page are you on right now?
The beginning to see what ones.
Oh, I thought you
remember
just
what they are.
If I
Read
never
us the index.
if I never know what to read, just flip open a page, and that's what you need to hear in the moment.
Brett, you want to hear a love poem? I bet you. Yeah.
Well, Britt hates love, but she'll hear it.
Okay.
Maybe it's what you need.
Maybe it is what I need, you know?
Okay. Let me find one that you might appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate all works of art, so no judgment here.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys a couple options. You pick one.
Caleb, this one's on you.
All right.
So we have Tequila by 10. We have... Now, when we say love, does it have to be like happy?
No.
No.
Okay.
Oh, hell no.
All right, so we got Giving Up, Giving Out. And I don't know, we'll just say those two. So one's kind of a happy, one's not.
They both, I like the titles of them. They really kind of like, ooh, I want to read that now. I kind of like the first one, the Tequila by 10. That one just kind of struck out.
All right, so it's a shorter one. We'll start with that one. Let me see if I can find it here.
One more time before you get started. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby, KU.
That's getting cut.
No, it's not. Come on.
on.
I get to celebrate the next 2 weeks. Nothing but
who
KU
said that?
shirts.
Who said that?
Me.
Oh, well, not in this office.
You can't. Then I won't be in this office for 2 weeks. I'm going to be celebrating this the rest of my life.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so this is called Tequila by 10. It's no surprise that we didn't bother getting dressed. We are more alive when we are uncovered. And how wild we are drunk dancing to the rhythm of deep laughter. Your bare breasts tango in the morning light. I simply cannot get enough of the woman that you are. Body shots of a tequila sunrise, and in my eyes, you are everything. So just a little short one there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
That was a good one.
Thank
You got Brett excited. I could see it. She's like, wow.
Right?
I am big into poetry. It's just.
All right, so I write free verse, and I kind of, my thing is to write simple language, not super elegant where you have to go look up shit, because who wants to do that?
See, that's funny, because if I, like, when I would write in high school, I was like thesaurus. I'm like, what's this mean? All right, that works.
Yeah. I mean, I still look at look up words.
I know, it's just funny. I'm like, because I appreciate that, and then at the same time, like my style would be so opposite, but that's the funny part, right? Is like, I'd be like, what's like the craziest thing I could throw in here? Especially in high school, you're like, I'm gonna get bonus points for this.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, definitely. All right, I'll read the other one too.
Okay.
Just because it's it is one of my, it's like in my top 20.
All right.
So I don't know. Do you want a little bit of a backstory?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about a relationship that ended, and a girl that I thought, and it was within the last 10 years or so, that I thought would be maybe possibly the one. But I really like the way it ended.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that. All right, Giving Up, Giving Out. She wasn't nearly as pure after the breakup, pouring around like those Facebook love affairs we would often shake our heads about. I tried to keep in touch on drunk nights, but I knew that she was gone, sucked into the thrills of non-believers. I hated her for that, for giving up on the woman that she wanted to become, for fucking away the future that we often talked about over a full glass of blackberry wine under those autumn sparklers, while rubbing her thigh and wishing for forever. But forever always comes too soon. We were young souls in aging bodies, lost in the excitement of something new. But we knew. We knew that love was sour, that life was quite bitter after the sugar coating, but we kept sucking anyway. And now, that's how she forgets about me.
That is good. I like that.
That.
You need like a little like track that plays after you.
Yes.
That's funny. I like that.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I liked it.
So that's that one. And then the last one I brought is actually my most recent book, I guess. I published this. It's a poetry book. We Fight, We Love, We Devour. And I was looking through my files. I published this around Veterans Day last year. And I had enough stuff laying around. I wrote a few new ones. And I was like, you know what? Let's just throw one out there because I want to. So that's what I did. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm making millions or trying to sell millions. I'm just, giving my two fans what they want.
Well, you're doing what you love, and that's all that matters. And you seem to be quite successful at it. And that is amazing.
Thank you. It's definitely gone further than I thought it ever would or ever expected. So, I'm super excited about the book coming out. No Pistol Tastes the Same.
And then do you have a release date?
Yeah, May 24th is when it comes out. This book's already won a first place award last year. I started writing it during COVID, so it's been like the longest book that I've done, and it's actually a long book in itself. But it's cool because it's about PTSD, and it's about the bonds and strength of family. And I don't like to cut corners or soften things up when I write, so it's very much in your face. Like, you can't close your eyes and hide from this. Here it is. And I like that about it. But I've been getting a lot of great reviews on it, and I look forward to, I don't know, maybe reaching some of those people that maybe aren't necessarily readers, like some of my Marines who can't read third grade stuff, or some of those people that maybe wouldn't talk about it. And this might be another way for them to open the door to talk about that sort of shit. So that's what I like about it.
Cool. Then where can people find you at? Yeah,
so my website is jacobpaulpatchen.com. You can literally type in Jacob Paul Patchen to Google. There's a lot of stuff that comes up. I'm on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I just downloaded TikTok. I haven't posted anything.
Yeah.
But I have it now.
It's an animal.
Yeah.
It's an animal.
Yeah, it's kept me up a couple nights, I fell into that trap. But Amazon, all my books are on Amazon. There's several on Barnes & Noble. I have some in the local bookstore here, some other bookstores, other major book retailers. Amazon's just the easiest, I think, for people.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's been fun.
It's a great time. And again, we'll plug our stuff too. You want to do it?
Yeah, I do actually. Okay, so what episode is this?
43. 42.
This has been episode number 42. 42. Find us on Insta at OTR.pod. Go shop our merch for some summer wear at
OTRcast.shop.
Exactly.
Get some swimming trunks. Don't buy the bikini. It's ugly. We're getting a new one.
Okay, so maybe hold off on the bikini, but definitely go check it out. And Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby.
That's
KU.
It? No YouTube, no Facebook?
All right, hold up. YouTube. Find us on YouTube. If you're watching this video, you probably already know where to find us. Hit
subscribe.
Yeah, hit subscribe and like, please. And Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. KU.
No Facebook?
Come on.
No face. You just wanted to say that again, and you forgot Facebook again.
Facebook.
OTRcast.
OTRcast.
And OTRcast. No spaces on Spotify, Apple, Google, and then on. Yeah, it's just OTRcast everywhere. That's where it is everywhere now. So go find it. We'll be here next week again.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. KU. This is probably one of my favorite podcasts so far. It's very funny.